everyone, my name is Ayoola Hassan. I'm a senior associate at Adeola, Oyinlade and Co. Today I will be speaking on the provision of the Nigerian Data Protection Act of 2023 that regulates the development of artificial intelligence. The Nigerian Data Protection Act is the principal act that regulates the collection and processing of personal data of data subjects in Nigeria. Section 37 of the NDPA strictly restricts the automated processing of personal data that will have impact on the legal rights or obligation of a data subject in Nigeria. Although the Nigerian Data Protection Act Section 37 places a huge restriction on automated data processing by data controller or data processor in Nigeria, there are exceptions. And the exceptions are that if such processing is done subject to the consent of the free consent of the data subject, or if it is for the performance of a contract in which the data subject and the data controller are parties to such a contract. And lastly, if the automated processing is in performance of a legal obligation by the data controller. In such instances, then automated processing can be allowed, although subject to safeguards or measures being put in place by the data controller when undergoing such automated data processing. However, some of those safeguards or measures that must be put in place are that the processing must have a human intervention or human oversight. Also, the data subjects must be able to share their own view on the automated processing method that is being adopted by the data controller. And then lastly, the decision-making process or the automated processing of the personal data of the data subject, such processing must allow or must give rights to the data subject to be able to challenge the decision made from such automated data processing. Developers of artificial intelligence must ensure that while using automated data processing method for their decision-making process, they must ensure that they incorporate human oversight or human intervention in the process. For instance, if the decision-making will affect the legal rights or the obligation or interest of the data subject, the developers must ensure that they incorporate human oversight such that such decision-making is not left solely to the decision or to the algorithm of the artificial intelligence machine. The developers of artificial intelligence machine must ensure that they put in place technical and organizational measures that will help them to stay compliant with the provisions of the Nigerian Data Protection Act. Some of those measures are that they must ensure that the collection and processing of data aligns with the principles of data processing set out in the NDPA, such as purpose limitation. They must ensure that the collection and processing of the data of data subjects are mainly for the purposes for which such data are required. Also, the processing of the personal data of data subjects must also be minimized to the purpose for which such data collection is needed. Additionally, the developers of artificial intelligence machine must also ensure that they conduct or they implement data protection impact assessment for high-risk data processing, especially when such when such processing has to do with sensitive personal data of data subjects, such as health record or political interest or religious beliefs of the data subject. So the developers must ensure that they put in place all those measures that will enable them stay compliant with the provisions of the NDPA. Another of such measures is that they must also ensure that the data subjects have a right to can exercise their right to challenge or review the decision of the automated data processing. And lastly, another safeguard or measure they can put in place is that there must be proper documentation of the whole process. That way they will be able to comply with the provision or the requirements of NDPA that requires for annual audit reports to be filed at the end of the annual audit report to be filed at the end of the whole processing. In a situation whereby developers of artificial intelligence fails to comply with the provision of the NDPA, particularly Section 37, which provides for the restriction for automated data processing of personal data or data subjects, such violation can lead to issuance of compliance or enforcement order. Enforcement order can come in a way that the NDPC will state that the developer or the violator should ensure that such violation is remedied, or it could also be payment of fine or penalty that is being meted out to the violator. However, in a situation whereby the compensation order or the enforcement order is not complied with by the violator, then it could also lead to a fine or conviction for not more than 1 year imprisonment. So it could either be a fine or conviction for not more than 1 year, or both.